To another How To Plus Q&A event. My name is Anamari Fanthorpe, and I'm your host today here on Digital Boost, where we do it so we learn it so we can do it and boost it. I'll get it in the end. I'll be all right on the night. Today we've got Tim here from Aro Digital. Well, you've got a number of entities at this point. You just keep acquiring new tech businesses that help us.
Not acquiring, building.
Sorry. And we are going to have one of your partners from Kepler on in a few weeks as well, which is going to be so good because I see that you've got that logo up on there. So we'll get into that in a few weeks. And so welcome to this session on metrics and what to pay attention to on Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook. It's going to be a super useful session. I know a lot of y'all tune in with us on social media. So if you're tuning in, you can ask questions to Tim via the chats. So make sure that you pop them in there, and I'll be checking that throughout the session and trying to pull the answers through. If I happen to miss your question, don't worry, we'll get the answer for you and we'll get it to you. Remember, you can always contact support@digitalboost.co.nz. So hi, Tim, welcome, and thank you for joining us here. I love your background. It's real poppy.
Thank you. Yeah. Got to do the agency thing and have some nice wall art on the background, eh?
Yeah, and actually, a lot of y'all have that. I've seen some really cool kind of graffiti-ish kind of style art in spaces, and it makes the vibe really energetic when you're in the building.
You got to play into the cliches.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I know we've got a lot of content that we're going to get through today, so I want to let you kick off, and I'm going to get those chats open because they take me a minute. So welcome, Tim. Thanks for joining us again here on Digital Boost.
Yeah, well, morena e te whānau. Ko Tim toku ingoa. My name is Tim Dorrian. I'm the managing director of Aro Digital, and I'm also involved in the marketing of Kepler. Today, I've set myself the challenge of making an hour's worth of digital marketing metrics interesting. So if you're here, good on you for coming to such a dry sounding talk, but I promise we're going to make it as exciting as we can. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a few of the most important metrics, but what I'll get you to do at some point is actually load up your own browser and your own platforms and see if you can follow along with some of the metrics that I'm going to talk about. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen and we will go from there. Beautiful. So you should be able to see it now. Cool. So let's talk about the top 3 metrics in digital marketing that will actually have an impact on how much money you make. And the reason I want to talk about this is because there's so much to digital marketing that you can really easily get lost in the noise of what am I actually supposed to be paying attention to? There's something like 400 metrics on Facebook alone. So like navigating all of that, really, really difficult. So it's taken me years to kind of get to this point of my knowledge of metrics. So I want to help you kind of skip some of those learnings that I've had to make over the course of my career. Now, when I'm talking over the next couple of slides, what I want you to do in the background is I want you to load up these platforms. I want you to load up Google Search Console. You might have it. If you don't have it, that's okay. Now, this is for managing your relationship with Google. So we're going to tackle that first. Then looking at Meta, so the Facebook Business Manager. So see if you can load that up as well. Google Analytics 4, you might have either the Universal Analytics or Google Analytics 4 loaded up. And maybe we'll do a little bit of stuff on Google Ads Manager. That one's not as important. Those first 3 are important. So if you've got one or all of those, load it up in the background and we'll see if you can follow along. And this is one of the ways that I'm going to make things interesting. The other way is that if you make it all the way to the end of this, I'm going to give you a pretty interesting example of how you can utilize ChatGPT. Again, got to play into the cliches of a digital marketer these days. So a little bit about us, Aro Digital. We're all about growing awesome ideas. And if you're with a purpose-driven business, anywhere in Aotearoa, we want to hear from you. We run these free impact hours, free digital marketing consultations. We sit down one-on-one with you and go through it. You don't have to come on board. We just want help. We work across search, social, analytics, and strategy. I'm going to be talking about all of those things today, and I've had the real privilege of working across a wide range of really awesome client accounts. Because of all the challenges that we saw with digital marketing and how difficult it is to kind of set up a campaign, we set up this platform called Kepler. So this allows you to run multi-channel campaigns, some of these different channels I'm talking about today, like an expert, and in a way simpler way. And that's kind of what it looks like. It's making the campaign builds process so much easier. It's really easy to upload ads, and we've actually just integrated ChatGPT into the actual ad creation process. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this later and how this might be able to speed up some of your processes. But enough of the pitches. Let's talk about digital marketing. So I want to talk about this first. What is the multiplier effect and why is it important? Why do you need to know what this is to be able to grow your business's revenue? How can we increase the traffic through to our website so we can get more eyeballs on the stuff that we want to say? Why is conversion rate important and what is it in the first place? And then I'm going to use ChatGPT to talk a little bit about average order value and why that's really important in your overall marketing as well. Oh, the multiplier effect. What is it? So I like to think about the multiplier effect as the three most important metrics that we're kind of going to start with over the course of this session. So let's say we get 150 sessions or visits through to our website. Let's say our conversion rate is something like 4%. So 4 of those 150 people come through and actually make a purchase. Now, on average, they spend about $125. So our average order value is $125. That means that our revenue is $750, and also our spend is going to be important as well. Like, how much money have we spent on digital marketing or any other marketing activity to achieve this? So those top 3, those are going to be the ones that I want to frame this talk around, and I'm going to dive into each one of those a little bit deeper and tell you how you can influence each one. And the reason it's called the multiplier effect is that as you start to increase each one of these, let's say we get up to 200 sessions, we move our conversion rate from 4 to 5%, we move our average order value up another $25. This has a massive and compounding impact on our revenue. So the more that we can impact those 3, the more that our revenue will increase. Now, whether or not you're an actual e-commerce business, you might be like a service provider as well, that average order value is still going to be important, because you can think about, instead of what products are they buying, it's which of the services that I offer did the person convert on? Are they going for the ones that are the most valuable to me? Or are they going for kind of some of these, I don't know, smaller services? So it's still important to think about. All right, let's get into it. I want to talk first about how to actually drive traffic to your website. Now, again, there are so many different platforms out there that I could talk about. So, there's driving traffic from Google, from something called SEO, search engine optimization. But there's also all the different social medias and loads of different websites out there that could pull traffic through to your website. And then there's the paid side of things, doing Google ads, Facebook ads, running ads across the display network. Those are those little ads that show up on the right-hand side of news articles and things like that, doing YouTube, and there's heaps of different paid platforms as well. Now, I'm mostly going to focus on the paid side of things because I find it's a little bit easier to talk about the metrics on the paid side. All of this stuff kind of applies to the earned, organic channels, but can be a little bit more difficult to actually drive traffic longer term. But all the same concepts are kind of going to apply. So I want to talk first about Google. And within Google searches, the most important thing for you to be ranking for is your brand name. So for us, our name is Aro Digital. You want to make sure that we're ranking first for that, right? Because if we're not, any word of mouth that's out there, we might not be showing up for. If someone's had a conversation, next thing they might do is go and type your brand name in. So what I want you to do is test it out for yourself. What's your business name? Do you show up first? Do some other ads show up? So you have my permission to jump into another tab, go away from me and check it out. Put your business name in. Do you show up first? If not, one of the ways that you can get a little bit higher up is mentioning your brand name a little bit more on your homepage. That's going to be the page that you're going to want to have rank first. Because some businesses, you might find that maybe your about page or your contact page is ranking first. So the aim of the game is to get your homepage ranking first when someone's Googling your brand name. There's also other things you can do to rank for your brand name. Getting more links through to your website is probably the second most important thing. Cool, so that's one side of SEO and Google. The other side is these non-branded searches. So thinking about what someone might search when they're searching for your type of service. So if I was a florist, Florist Wellington. We're a digital marketing agency, Digital Marketing Wellington, and we want to make sure that we're showing up somewhere on the first page, ideally as close to the top as possible. And the reason we want to show up to as close to the top is that the click-through rate, the proportion of people that click on our listing is going to be a whole lot higher the higher up the page you are. If you're in that first position, it varies a little bit depending on the search, but you might get something like a 25% click-through rate. So 1 in 4 people that make the search might click on you. But as you can see, there's kind of, even before I start scrolling, there's a few different places I could click. I could click on these Google My Business listings at the top. So you can set yourself up a Google My Business listing. That's a free thing through Google, and collect reviews and stuff like that. The more reviews that you have, as well as like kind of how up to date your profile is, the better you'll perform in that. Whereas for some of these organic results, so what's down a little bit lower, that's again about putting your ideal search, so those non-branded searches, actually into the landing page that you're trying to rank. So for us, we mentioned Digital Marketing Wellington a bunch of times on our landing page. So can you guess what I'm going to say? Test that out as well. What would someone search to find your product or your service? If you're a florist, they might search Florist Wellington or whatever that location is, or maybe it's a more specific suburb. Where do you rank? Do you show up in the first position? Are there some ads that show up as well? Are you on the first page? Again, the higher you are on that result, the better. And check if your Google My Business listing shows up as well. Now, a good trick for this is, instead of just searching normally on Chrome, which will kind of give you results based on your own search history, actually opening up what's called an incognito tab can help you to essentially clear your browser history, open it up like an anonymous fresh user, and that's how you can kind of test it out without it being sort of diluted by your own previous search activity and browser history. So opening up an incognito tab and testing out whether or not you're ranking first in Google for that is a good thing to do. And obviously we want to have both of these. First of all, it's most important to be ranking for your brand name, and then your non-brand name. So how do we check how much traffic we're getting for these different search terms? I want to introduce you, well, you might already know about it, to a platform called Google Search Console. So if you don't already know about this, you can just Google that, Search Console. It's a Google platform, and it allows you to manage your relationship and measure your relationship with Google. So this is an example, this is real data from our Search Console. So you can see how many clicks, how many times people have actually clicked on one of our pages for each query. And a query is essentially the different searches that people are making. So you can see that Aro Digital is the most popular one, but we also have a blog on Wellington gift ideas. We've got a sign up the front that says ROHQ, so we've got people Googling that, trying to work out what it is, and all sorts of other things as well. So we've got a few metrics that are important here, and this is kind of the start of the nerdiness. Clicks, the number of times that someone's actually visited your site from the query. The impressions, that's the number of times that people have searched in total that your website has shown up. So let's say, let's take this, which one should we take? My little guy's in the way. So Aro Digital, 2,100 clicks, impressions 5,500. That means that many people Googled that over this time period. And then 38% is our click-through rate. So that's the percentage of clicks into impressions. So these are fundamental metrics that are going to be really important for our understanding of all of the different platforms. But this is one of the most simple ways to do it. So things where there's much higher intent, like our brand name, we've got a much higher click-through rate. And obviously the higher up the page that will be, the higher that click-through rate will be as well. So one of the important things to pay attention to when we're in this platform is how much of that traffic is coming from our branded searches versus our non-branded searches. And this is a pretty typical split. Around about 65–70% of your traffic will be coming from your branded searches. That's a good sign of word of mouth and all of that stuff working, whereas 35% of it will be coming from these non-branded searches. So again, we've got a blog on Wellington gift ideas, and we get a bit of traffic from that. You can see we get a bit of traffic from Digital Marketing Wellington, Digital Agency Wellington, et cetera, et cetera. So we measure that to understand how our Google performance is going and where there's room for improvement. So that's kind of a good initial distinction between that branded and that non-branded traffic. Note that, yeah, most of your traffic will be coming from these branded searches. So that's why that's really important to optimize first. So let's change left. Let's change platforms. Let's start talking about Facebook. So when we're thinking about running paid advertising, I think these are three of the most important metrics when we're trying to drive traffic through to our website. There's heaps of metrics, but I just want to focus in on these three. And these are the cost per 1,000 impressions. This is a metric that essentially gives you an indicator of how expensive the audience is to reach. So if you were driving down the streets and, I don't know, you're in like the middle of nowhere and you see a billboard, that billboard's probably pretty cheap to advertise on. That audience is maybe a little bit lower quality, maybe not as many people. But if you're on like, the motorway and everyone's driving past and the quality of the audience is really high, the CPM would be higher. So that's kind of a classic advertising thing. The click-through rate, that we talked about that before. Again, that's the number of clicks versus the number of impressions. And it's a good sign of how well your ad is performing with your audience. And our cost per click, that's how much it costs for every click through to the website. So I want to use this as a bit of an example. This is a golden hour photo competition that we run, where we're capturing like the best golden hour photos from around New Zealand. I just really love seeing golden hour photos, so it's a little bit self-serving. So when we're putting a campaign together for something like golden hour, what our campaign objective is to get submissions for it. And when we're thinking about our campaign structure on Facebook ads, this is kind of what it would look like. We'd have our campaign objective being form submits, our ad sets. So this is kind of going down a level in our build in Facebook. That's where we're setting our audiences, our placements, and our budgets and our schedules. And then we've got ads underneath that, copy, image, and landing page. And the reason I'm showing you this is because technically what we're looking at when we're getting really into digital marketing is different metrics at each ones of these. I'm not going to go super in depth into which ones at each level. I'll keep it a little bit more top level. But when you're really getting into it, understanding what metrics are important at each level is going to be important. And Facebook is a complicated platform. There's two ways, well, there's even more than two ways, but these are the main two ways that you can kind of get access to running ads on Facebook. Now, my preferred way, which is a little bit more kind of technical, is in the settings of Facebook, going to this ads manager here. And that will give you that functionality of being able to do a big campaign build like the structure I showed you before. A little bit more advanced, a little bit more time consuming, but does give you better results. Otherwise, there's this more automated and simple ad creation journey, which is on the right. Now I'm talking about driving extra traffic to your website. So from the objectives that you can see on the right-hand side, you can probably tell I'm going to send you towards driving more website visitors. Something like that would probably be a good objective for any kind of paid campaign you might be running in Facebook. There's some of these other ones, but I don't really find growing Facebook followers to be a super beneficial on my actual revenue. Boosting a post doesn't usually deliver what I need it to from a performance perspective. Sometimes if I've got like a conversion campaign, getting more leads could be a good one. But again, to be honest, I don't really use this builder. It's a bit too simple for me. No, there's just more dials that we've got on the under this ads manager. So if you have run Facebook campaigns in the past, here's what I want you to do is open up ads manager or open up any of the ads that you've run in the past, and we'll run through some metrics. And we'll start at the ad level. So I showed you that social ad before, this one. So let's imagine we're promoting this ad. And all of these on the left-hand side are different examples of ads, essentially, different variants of it. And that's really what we're trying to do at the ad level is we're testing which creative is going to perform better. And what we really want to understand is the click-through rate of those ads, which one's driving traffic at the best rate, because that gives us a really good idea of what creative is really resonating with our audience, what's driving traffic at the cheapest rate, and that's where our cost per click comes in. So when we're looking at our metrics in Facebook Ads Manager, this is some of the ones that we're looking at is our click-through rate. And note there's a difference between click-through rate all and link click-through rate. Facebook's a bit sneaky there. Link click-through rate is essentially the amount of traffic that's coming through. Click-through rate all includes people kind of clicking on the see more or see all comments and stuff like that, which is not as great as of a metric. So what I can see here is that this particular ad gave me one of the cheapest cost per clicks, around 31 cents. This one also did well. And this one had a 2.45% click-through rate. That one had 2.74, 2.19. So those ones would be the ones that I'd be leaving more budget on, whereas this one with the 0.79% click-through rate, that one's not performing as well. I'd maybe turn that one off, although the CPM was a little bit cheap for that. So that at an ad level, that's some of the stuff I'm looking at: click-through rate, cost per click. And audience level, they're going one up from ads, is essentially the cost per click, the click-through rate again, but now we're starting to bring in our CPM. How expensive is our audience? That's really the question that we're asking ourselves there. And different types of audience, let's say we go for a really broad audience. We want to reach 18 to 65 plus anywhere in New Zealand. That's going to be a relatively cheap audience to go after. If we go for something a little bit more specific, let's say we want to reach 20 to 30-year-old males in the Wellington CBD, that might get a little bit more expensive because it's a bit more dialed in. But there's lots of factors on the cost of audience. And lots of different ways you can do it. Measuring how expensive your audience is a good way to understand whether or not, or just how expensive it is, really. So it allows for additional insights and you to change your strategy over time of what audiences you want to go after. Cool. Now, at a campaign level, now we usually structure our campaigns as different projects or promotions that we're working on. And at the campaign level, really what I'm aiming for is the best cost per acquisition. So this is a new one, and this is one of the most important metrics you could be paying attention to, is how much money does it cost me to actually acquire a result? And I want to talk a little bit later about understanding what your results are in the first place. So at this stage, we're usually testing out different campaign objectives. I showed you before. These are kind of different campaign objectives. Just want to find out which one of those is actually going to achieve our results the best. There's lots of other metrics that you can be looking at. The number of link clicks that you got, the reach, that's the total number of people that have seen it. The individual people that have seen it. Impressions is the total number of people that have seen it. Frequency is how often people have seen ads, and you might have seen those ads that follow you around and are constantly showing up. That can be really annoying, and actually, if your frequency is too high, that can actually negatively impact your outcomes. You want that to be in kind of a sweet spot. And yeah, obviously understanding how much you've spent as well is really key. Now, one of the things I see people getting tripped up on is seeing their results column being the sort of like cost per acquisition, and whatever your campaign objective was, that's kind of screenshot I just went back to, that will be what shows up here. So for these ones, these are all traffic campaigns. That means the objective is driving traffic. But for me, the actual outcome I'm looking for is how much it costs me to get these kind of submit type forms or these form submissions. So I want to understand those rather than the cost per result. So just an important distinction between results and the actual cost per acquisition on your website or whatever that conversion point is. Cool. Feel free to chuck through more questions around the social side of things. It gets with like 400 or so metrics, it gets pretty gnarly. So try to simplify it as much as possible. Now, how do you see these metrics? That's kind of one of the first tricks that you really need to work out. So if you've got Facebook ads open, what you'll see in the top right hand side is you'll see this view setup and this little drop down. You'll see all these different options. But what I want you to click is this secret and very helpful button called Customize Columns. Now, this will allow you to see those like heaps of metrics that I've been talking about. And what you can do is you can search for the ones that I've been talking about. You'll see them show up on the right-hand side, and that will allow you to build these tables based on the ones that are going to be important for you. And depending on your objectives and what you want to be measuring, you might have slightly different metrics. It can be useful to just take a scroll through. Good research if you want to get nerdy about digital marketing to understand what some of these other ones are, but these are probably the most important ones that are on the right-hand side there. From there, there's a little button down here that allows you to save that as a preset and give it a name, and then you'll be able to see it each time you come back. So that's how you kind of see all those metrics that I've been talking about. So see if you can complete that in the background while we're going along as well. Now, focus pretty heavily on paid social. because the metrics that I'm talking about on the paid social side of things are almost exactly the same on the Google Ads side of things. And the reason is because Google Ads is much more than just search ads these days. There's heaps of different types of campaigns. There's these performance max campaigns, which for smaller businesses, I don't necessarily recommend. Performance max makes sense when you've got heaps of conversions and data flowing through, because it's a machine learning algorithm. And for smaller businesses, they don't tend to have as much data. If you're a massive business, let's say, I don't know, you're Trade Me or something like that, absolutely performance max makes sense. But I get a lot of questions, shouldn't we go for performance max? Yeah, I'm finding slightly better results on like not using it and using search and some of these other platforms instead, but test it out for your businesses and see if it works. Display ads, again, those are the right hand, the images that show up on the sidebar and blog posts and stuff like that. Shopping ads show up when you kind of make product searches, and that's a really popular. Lots of people engage with that as a user. Video, this is how you set up YouTube ads, and then discovery popping up in like Gmail and some other placements. Lots of different placements that you can make through Google Ads these days. And again, a lot of the metrics are similar across these. CPM, measuring the cost of your audience, click-through rate, measuring the proportion of people that click on it, and cost per click, and you use them in really similar ways. So I won't dive as deep into Google Ads just because I want to talk about some other stuff, but know that all of those points I made about social ads, you can apply them to this thinking on Google Ads. Now, this is that trick for finding all of the metrics that I've been talking about on Google Ads. In Google Ads, you hover over columns, you go modify columns, and there's this little search bar up here to search for all the different ones. And again, you can save it as presets and go back to them over time. So that's really important to do. And what I find is that doing slightly different ones for the different campaign types is really important, because I look at slightly different things for search versus display versus shopping, and versus YouTube, which is obviously more video interaction info. One metric that I will talk about, which is a little bit different on search, is the search impression share. If I'm Googling Wellington florists, I might see 4 ads, but there might actually be 8 people advertising for that particular keyword. Our search impression share shows us how much of that auction that we're showing up for. So the higher the percentage, the more frequently that we're showing up for that particular search, because not all 8 ads might be shown every time someone searches that, maybe just 4 or 2 or 1. So yeah, good metric to pay attention to on your search campaigns, especially again for those non-branded campaigns, which is where you really want to be focusing. That's where we really want to be putting a lot of your budget, especially if there's not that many people showing ads for your branded searches. Then I probably wouldn't worry about running branded ads at all, just doing non-branded ads. Cool. All right, how am I going for time? Lovely, perfectly on time. Conversion. So all of that traffic that's coming through to the website from all of those different channels, anything in the paid social space, anything in the Google Ads space, we're going to want to try and convert it into something. So all that traffic, we're going to pull it through to our website. And this is where it's really important to understand what your metrics are. So for us, we're looking for inquiries, but for you, you might be trying to drive online sales or donations or volunteer signups or people actually visiting your store. So it can be good to think about your objective. And what I often find is that usually there's more than one. And that can be where something which is called a measurement plan can be really helpful for getting your thoughts in order of what it is that you're trying to track or trying to achieve and how you might track it. So, for us, we might be trying to increase inquiries. Our KPIs might be, 30 leads per month. And our metrics, those are the things that are going to feed that. So we might say that we want to have, 100 people coming to the website and a 3% conversion rates. And maybe they spend an average of like a minute on the website or something like that. They might be our metrics connected to that particular objective. So understanding your actual business or your digital objectives is the key to a successful digital marketing strategy. So I really encourage you doing this. You don't even need the slide. You can just do this on a piece of paper. Usually it's something like increase brand awareness, grow engagements and increase like number of leads or something like that. But it just depends on your business with what your objectives will be. Cool. So you can kind of just replicate that, objectives, KPIs, metrics on a piece of paper or something. Cool. So how do we take that and actually use it to improve our website? So one of the things I want to talk about is how doing stuff the old school way is absolutely fine. I talk with a lot of business owners that they don't want to get into really fancy like tech solutions. The best way that people could convert is just giving them a call. That's absolutely fine. But if that's the case, how do we make sure that your number is front and center? Mobile friendly. So many websites that I see, even 2023, are not mobile friendly, and roughly sort of 55% of website traffic will be on mobile. So understanding how popular mobile is on your website, and then what your actual mobile experience looks like, is really, really key. And then building a frictionless funnel, making it really easy for people to convert. So people aren't having to hunt down your information, and yeah, you're just really making that nice and seamless. So this is what our conversion pages look like. And what we found is that we used to do this, like we have had the order around the other way. We had this like high-tech solution of Calendly where people could book a meeting directly with us. And a couple of years ago, we found that like 20% of people were doing that, but we had it in the first position. Way more frequently, people were giving us a call or giving us an email. So what we learned from that is, let's flip the order. Let's make it really easy. Let's make that number nice and big. Let's make that email nice and big. People were looking for directions all the time, so we put our info there, and then we had our Calendly. And we did that both on our contact page as well as our footer, because just making it easy in both of those places to be able to find our info. What we didn't do is we didn't make a big 50-question form that like people had to fill out in order to be able to get in contact with us. We prioritized getting the call or getting the email or getting the meeting over the data collection, because we knew we could do that later. So that's something else that I see people struggling with sometime as well. So what you could do is you could load up your website on your phone, and you could check out, hey, how easy is it for someone to give me a call or someone to find one of these key pieces of information? How can I make that easier? And that will really help to improve that conversion rate, which is really the main metric that we're trying to have an impact on at this stage. Building a frictionless funnel. So this is one of our clients, 4 words. They make lab-grown diamonds. And what you can see is their conversion journey is so simple. There's these 2 get in touch buttons that you can click when you land on the homepage, and you go through to this page. They've got like a simple form with a little drop down message, and they've got all this other stuff that helps with answering some of the FAQs that people might have around buying one of their rings. And they've got some other ways to reach them on there as well. So if you want a good example of what a great contact page could look like, go and check out the 4 words website. They've got reviews and fantastic. So this is kind of the classiest way to do it. Oh, so how do we actually measure this stuff? How do we measure our conversion rate? How do we understand our users' on-site behavior? What I want to invite you to do is open up Google Analytics. Now, you can go one of 2 ways here. I mean, there's kind of 3. You might not have it. That's one way. We'll disregard that. You might have universal analytics. That's the kind of now the old school analytics, which is going to be deprecated in July this year. I think Google was collecting heaps of info, and it got really expensive for them. So they're moving to GA4, which is the new analytics platform. So if you've got that or Universal Analytics, load it up and let's check out a couple of these reports. And the first one I'm going to be using Google Analytics for is the conversion overview. So it's really important to understand where are my conversions coming from? What platform are they arriving for, and what percentage? So you can see this is our one. We've got 541 of our conversions coming through from organic search, and 500 coming from paid search. Other people are coming from paid social and referral, and direct. That's essentially just someone typing in the URL or copying and pasting it, or any other untrackable link. So going into the conversion report can give you this information once conversions have been set up there. In order to do that, you'll first need to be capturing these different events. This is where things get a little bit more technical. Some platforms like Shopify and stuff like that will automatically kind of do this when you load it in, or there's different plugins that you can do to get some of this information. An event is any kind of interaction on your website, and it kind of it shows the different direction that Google Analytics 4 is going from Universal Analytics. Google Analytics 4 is really paying attention to how people are engaging with any kind of online app. So your website, your mobile app, or whatever. So it's thinking about all the different touch points. So all the different buttons and clicks and things that people are doing. So it's kind of thinking about it more like that than what Universal Analytics did, which is which pages are people going to. So it's kind of a slightly different way of thinking. What events are people having? What pages are people hitting? So those are the kind of different ways of doing it. So you can check this out. This is the event overview. This might be set up for you. It might not. But this is kind of where you want to get to when you're measuring your performance. Traffic acquisition. This is another good report. This is probably my favorite report in Google Analytics. Again, looking at the number of views from these different channels, the number of users, sessions. The difference between a user and a session is one user. I might visit the website 3 times. That's one user, but 3 sessions. And then some of these other metrics like engaged sessions and average engagement time per session. That's a mouthful. Essentially, it's just a good metric for on-site behavior. So looking at traffic acquisition can be good. Looking at popular pages, where are people clicking around my website? Which pages are people visiting the most? And that can be really important for understanding which pages you should be improving on your website first, or which ones you should be promoting. Maybe we want more people to be visiting our About Us page. How can we promote that a little bit more in our website hierarchy? How can we drive more people to that? Mobile versus desktop. We've got about 72% of our traffic being desktop and 27% mobile. Lots of the websites that I see are more like 50-50 or even a little bit more mobile than desktop. You can view that by going tech overview by category. So what I'd encourage you to do is kind of just get curious about analytics and work out what information you can view and how you might be able to implement that information in some of your future digital marketing. And again, you can use the information that's either in Google Analytics 4 or Universal Analytics for that. Cool. I want to talk now about average order value. So this is that third step in the process from traffic to conversion rate through to average order value. And this is how you really dial up the actual revenue that you're making. So in particular, e-commerce websites, this is super important, but you can kind of think about some of the stuff from a service-based perspective again as well. So I like to think about things like this, like how do we increase the amount of value that we're generating for users? Should we be having a discount or a sale, or which products should we be promoting more back at our marketing? So where should we be focusing our promotional efforts? Do we want to push more energy towards this particular product category, or this one, or this particular service, or another one? And you can see it when it comes to these like e-commerce platforms like Shopify. Actually, in the Shopify dashboard, you can track your average order value over time. So that's a good place to view this. Otherwise, if you've got e-commerce tracking set up, you can see it in Google Analytics as well. So how do you have an impact on it? Running promotions and discounts. So you can offer discounts like after people have spent a certain amount. You can create some some urgency through limited time promotions, or you can provide discount codes through signups. Bundles, you can bundle products together, kind of like this example below, and showcase like some of the savings that people might receive through it. Providing some social proof with reviews and testimonials can be good as well. Other things is upselling and cross-selling. This is kind of what Amazon does. So they make it really easy to kind of, essentially add other products to carts. So these kind of frequently bought together can be kind of a good way to do that. On things like Shopify, there's apps that allow you to do this that you can kind of use. But I've got a confession. Those last 2 slides, I didn't write those. ChatGPT wrote those. And I wanted to incept the idea that I mean, it's not perfect copy if you go back. It could be better. But it's really interesting that you can pull information together using ChatGPT in whatever way you want to. And what I want to show you is what prompt I use to get that information. This is how I'm trying to make metrics a bit more interesting. And I also want to show you how you can take that and you can make it even more fun. So this was the prompt that I gave ChatGPT. I said, you're an expert digital marketer, write a guide to increasing average order value of the website. Break it down into 3 to 5 main categories with tips on how to improve your website in each category. And to be honest, it did a pretty good job because I was getting started with those 3 categories, the icons that I did first. And it did pretty similar things to me. So how do we make that more fun? How do we make that more interesting? And why am I talking about this? Because I think that it's going to be very important to understand how you can utilize new AI tools to get the content you're looking for done and get it happening more creatively. Because I then said this to ChatGPT. I said, take the prior points and turn it into a catchy jingle. And this is what it did. Do you want to increase your AOV? Listen up, we've got the key. Just follow our lead and you'll see the profits you need. Upsell, cross-sell, and bundles too. Product recommendations just for you. Discounts and promotions, seal the deal. Loyalty programs for customers that are real. I'm not going to read the rest of it. You can read the rest of it. But I love how at the end, so go ahead and give it a try and watch your revenue multiply. And I'm talking about the multiplier effect. So ChatGPT is pretty crazy because it took all of those points they had before and it can make something pretty creative like this. If I tried to do this, it would have taken me ages. And I don't have as good jingle skills as ChatGPT. So why am I talking about this? It's because we've actually integrated it into Kepler. So what you can do now is you can actually pop in essentially like this, like Gold Now photo competition, and put a landing page URL in. And we're now using the ChatGPT API to pull all that information and then spit out an ad. So you can see the ad on the right there, but it doesn't just do that. It actually creates heaps of different ad variants. Now, this might not be perfect, but it can be a good starting point to kind of make some tweaks from. So we're just trying to make it really easy to do that. So if you want in, there's a wait list. We also do those impact hours and we've got a digital marketing newsletter. So that's pretty much it from me. This is your metrics cheat sheet. You can take a screenshot of this or something. These are the most important things that I've talked about today in terms of different metrics. The only one I haven't talked about, which is return on investment, which is a similar metric to cost per acquisition. It takes into consideration how much money someone's actually spent on the product as well. So for cost per acquisition, I would do that for like leads and that sort of thing. For return on investment, I would do that for e-commerce products, that sort of thing. So Hepatai, questions?
We do have some questions, Tim. So I'm excited to jump into these. That was a jam-packed session. So I think we're going to be rewatching this a few times to go back through and get everything opened and kind of have a look. So informative. That was so useful. I think that, metrics can be really difficult for small businesses. There's just so many numbers out there and you're just going, what am I looking at here? So I love the idea of just having a play around and really just starting to understand your own business, because every business is going to be different, right? What's useful to you, there might be some commonalities across all, but there's going to be some things that are going to be really useful to you based off of your clientele. So question here, do you think if your brand was digital Aro, would it be harder for people to find since many businesses start with the word digital?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you an example. We had a business called Flatfish, and I was trying to outrank the Wikipedia page for Flatfish for ages, because it was just a really difficult choice of names. So I just always got this grubby little fish looking back at me every time I checked whether or not we were ranking first. So picking the right business name is also really important at the start, but for most people here, you probably already made that decision. So yeah, seeing how competitive the brand name search is kind of important when I'm kind of picking a business name.
Yeah, cool. Another one here. Is it worth the effort of creating specific landing pages if we already have product pages, about us pages, etc.?
Good question. Depends what you're trying to do. It depends how much traffic you're going to send to it. Alongside like the spend that I'm putting into campaigns, I also look at how much time it's going to take me to do something. So if you're going to use that page over and over again, then sure. Especially if you're planning to like improve that page over time, I think it's really good to kind of pour your resource and your time into stuff that can kind of be cornerstone content, like either like a really good resource or like a really good product page or a really good page that shows all of your different kind of products and how you can buy them together. Doing a campaign page just for like one ad, probably wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, great advice. Thanks so much. Folks, keep dropping the questions in there. I know you were trying to keep up, so maybe we need to give you a moment to type. But I did want to mention that we are going to be, while you have that opportunity, I'm going to mention that on Thursday, we're doing a workshop on improving your Google My Business profile. So, and doing all of that kind of stuff. So if Google's a little bit of an anomaly for you and, you don't even have your Google Business profile set up, we're going to kind of ask you to create the account, but then we're going to go in and kind of zhuzh it, as they say. So that should be a really good session that we're going to run on Thursday. And we're going to do a whole session with Jonty, who is one of your partners from Kepler. And they're going to come in and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. I actually heard from him this morning, funnily enough. And we're going to get into the Kepler website or Kepler platform as well, and how it works and how you can use it for your business. So quick question here. Comparing ad variants is interesting, but time consuming. Any tips?
Little additional pitch for Kepler, but that's kind of the problem, right? Like we have a whole creative team here at Aro that, spends ages putting different ad variants together because it is really important to test things out. Maybe set a number that you're willing to do. Let's say 3 for each campaign or 3 for each ad set or something like that. I think it's important to do as well, though, because then you can kind of get into a creative space of, hey, how could I say this completely differently? And you can actually learn and improve the first 2 that you've done by the third one, of asking yourself that question of, hey, how would I say this totally differently, and get that message across in a more creative way. Or you can be thinking about other things along that ad creation process. How would I actually
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off,
Tim. Yeah, you're good. Go for it.
Oh, I was going to say a bit of a follow-up question. We hear a lot from experts to say, test, test, test. If you're a new business and you're getting out there and you have created like a couple of these ads, or you've created, say, an app, or you've created a platform, how do you go about, doing user testing for because you've got so many businesses now. How do you actually get the audience to test your platforms and all of that? How do you find those people?
Yeah, so when we're starting out, we actually try and focus more on like customer interviews and like really learning from those initial few customers, which is why on like the Kepler side of things, we build a wait list rather than just like open it up, so we can kind of pick and choose the people that come on board first. So we get those ideal customers first, so we can learn the most from them, because there's so many questions that we need to ask them about how valuable it is and what the most important things are, and hearing what they have to say about the things they love the most about the business or platform or whatever. That really feeds like a lot of the marketing strategy, right? Because you can, people might say, oh yeah, it saves me heaps of time, or I really love this feature, or it's kind of like that, or so learning from your initial customers. How do we find them? Thinking about who our target audience is and where they might exist already. When I'm getting started with the business, I won't even spend any money doing that. I'll just like reach out through like a Facebook group, and say that, yeah, I'm doing some market research, or that I'm looking for people like this, or buy them lunch or a coffee or whatever. When that starts scaling, there's maybe a slightly different approach that you might do, but yeah, kind of, learning from those initial audiences, or doing
Those
some like organic.
people. Yeah, that's great advice, because I think we always get started in a little bit of a way. I'm just jumping. I don't know if Tim froze to everybody else. He kind of froze to me. And
what about now?
Your video unfreeze. There you are. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to check the other channels because I don't want to miss anybody's questions. Unfortunately, I have to refresh because some of them don't pull through like in real time, which is slightly annoying. So give me one sec. but I can see you guys watching. Look, I just want to thank you, Tim, for your time here today. And I feel like we got a lot of really great insight into this. I hope you guys took a screenshot of that one slide. However, if you didn't, don't worry, because we always have the recording for these sessions on Tuesdays. They'll be up on the website, so you can get them there. If you've watched on social media, you can obviously play it back once it's kind of done its finalizing or whatever it's doing. And I mean, it's making it all put together. And you can always reach out to the team over at Aro Digital if you wanted to have a chat with them about marketing, or chat to the guys over at Kepler. They're really easy to find, obviously, because they're really good at this game of being findable, searchable online. So just great insights and feedback here. Great session. Thanks for the 4 pages of notes. Thank you, Tim and Anamari. Really interesting stuff. You're very welcome. We hope you'll join us on Thursday. Tim, wonderful that you were able to make it today. And I always appreciate when you come on and being a part of Digital Boost. Thank you so much. And thank you to your team, because I know you probably have to do a lot of things so that other people can kind of step into certain things while you take the time out to educate us. So we appreciate you.
No, it's my pleasure. And yeah, if you're here and you're learning about digital marketing metrics, full credit to you, because it's a bit of a dry subject, and it's a little bit more advanced than some of the other stuff. So if you're here, yeah, full credit to you, because it's it can be pretty confusing and a pretty tricky space.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why Kepler's been designed, Yeah, little plug. There you go.
A lot of them. It's enough plugging. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, totally. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday, hopefully. If not, I'll see you next week. And thanks, Tim. Thanks to the whole team. And ka kite.